Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Bree, and I am a big old toy nut. I have a whole nother channel called Bree's Toys. And the number one toy I collect is Transformers. I have been into Transformers since I was a baby. My mom said one of my first toys she ever gave me was a Transformer. During the 80s, there was a cartoon program called Transformers. The subtitle was More Than Meets the Eye. Colloquially, fans refer to it today as Transformers Generation 1, but that was not the case back then. But Hasbro took a chance on this cartoon property and made a theatrical released animated feature-length film, Transformers the Movie, in 1986. Now, long story short, the movie traumatized a whole bunch of kids of my generation, but it also tanked at the box office, prompting Hasbro to either move the other films, the animated films they had in production, to direct-to-video releases, or get canceled altogether. Because they were like, oops, that cost us money. I would have probably been maybe 4 years old in 1986. Not old enough to sit through a movie or know what was going on. My parents definitely weren't going to pay money to take me to a movie that I would not remember or even sit still for. So, I did not get to see Transformers 1986, the movie, in its original theatrical run. The animated show was on its last season when I discovered it. It was already season 5. It was already the Tommy episodes with the puppet Power Master Optimus Prime. They may have aired the movie as a 5-parter or something like that during that season, but we didn't have cable, and I didn't get to just sit at home and watch cartoons all day long like I would have wanted to, because I lived in a town that two of my uncles also lived in, so I was regularly required to socialize with my cousins. So I missed a lot of episodes. So I didn't get to see the cartoon. I didn't get to see the movie when I was a kid, when I should have. This always bothered me because I knew about it. It was a thing in the ethos. It was out there. Friends on the, or other kids, I shouldn't say friends, on the playground and at lunchtime whispered and rumored and talked about the Transformers the movie. And I was like, I've got to see this movie. But this was at a time when video stores we didn't have Blockbuster, only carried like the more popular movies that sold well, or like some fringe movies here or there, if it was something that, catered to the rental market. Transformers the Movie was not one of those films. It fell through the cracks. None of the video stores in my immediate area had it available to rent. None of them. Until one day when I was 12 years old, which is not too old to be watching cartoons, but I was already disinterested in cartoons to begin with, had already moved on to Power Rangers and Alex Mack, and or the Secret World of Alex Mack, if you want to get technical, and stuff like that. Superhuman Samurai, Cyber Squad, stuff like that. I wasn't watching cartoon shows anymore. But then I walked into this video store, this small town video store in another town that was a little bit of a drive, but my dad took me over there to see what they had, because we had already rented every movie they had in our local store. There was nothing new to rent. So it was like, all right, let's just go to the town next, 10 miles up the road and see what they have. And lo and behold, they had a copy of Transformers the Movie. And I tried to play it cool. I was like, hey, I've never seen this. And my dad was like, that's a cartoon. You don't watch cartoons. And I was like, I know, but I do like Transformers. I was still buying the toys at this time because Generation 2 had come on the scene. And I was secretly watching the Generation 2 cartoon, but I wasn't like telling my parents I was watching it, because I was like very adamant about, hey, I'm too old for cartoons. But my dad relented and he rented me the movie, and I took it home and I watched it, and I was like, oh my god, I should have saw this when I was 5. because I was immediately not a fan. I was like, I already knew it was about a giant planet eating other robots. And I already knew Optimus Prime died because I'd already seen the return of Optimus Prime in the flashback scenes. And I'd already talked to my friend, at the playground about the Quintesson. So I was like, this is not what I thought it was. I was like, alright, good music, good action sequences, but it's still a cartoon, and it was weird. All the characters I loved were dead, and these new characters I knew nothing about. I didn't have any of these toys, and I wasn't seeing them on the cartoon. They weren't showing up in the Generation 2 repackage. They weren't showing up in the reruns, the handful of reruns I did watch. So I was lost. I was like, what's going on? So my immediate initial reaction to Transformers the movie was, it was mediocre. It was like, it was okay. It wasn't awful. It wasn't terrible, but I wasn't enamored. But I was 12 when I watched it. As I go through the turmoil of my teen years, I get out of toy collecting and I'm done with cartoons altogether. Beast Wars didn't interest me at all. In fact, it turned me off to ever getting back into Transformers. I was like, nope, I'm done. One day, when I was like 19, I believe, it was 2001, I walked into a store, a GameStop, or, well, what would become a GameStop. At the time, I think it was Software Etc. But anyways, they had a Transformer on the shelf, at the little collectible toy shelf, because they weren't a toy store yet. They were still a video game store that sold toys. And it was an Autobot car. It was Prowl. Now, I didn't realize this was a different Prowl from the original G1 toy, because I never had Prowl as a kid. And it reminded me of Generation 2, so I thought, because it was called Robots in Disguise, and it was packaging that was reminiscent to the original packaging, I mistakenly assumed in my mind that they were bringing back the original toys. I got excited, and I bought that toy, and I took it home, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then I transformed it, and I had a lot of fun. And so I decided to get back into collecting, and I started buying toys again. During this discovery period, I decided I wanted to rewatch the original Transformers cartoon, just for, the memories, but also to see the episodes I missed. But it wasn't out on DVD yet. And so I had to buy a box of VHS tapes off of eBay somebody had recorded the entire series onto. So as I was watching the show, I was just like, all right, this is cool, this is fun. I'm into it. A little bit of nostalgia, a little bit of discovery, a little bit of rediscovery. So I was having fun. And then I put in one tape. Season 2 had ended, and I was like, all right, the start of Season 3, right? Well, I popped it in, and instead of being the start of Season 3, it was Transformers the movie. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll watch it again. This time, I just watched the first 2 seasons of the cartoon. I had that twinge of nostalgia from being 12 years old the first time I watched it. And I had gotten to know some of what was going on. As my toy collecting and my going online and reading about things on the internet, because I now had access to the World Wide Web for the first time in my life. So I was a little bit more familiar with the backstory of the characters and the production and everything else. So I developed a little bit more of an appreciation for the movie. And then I would watch Season 3 of the cartoon, and I was like, oh, I got to know these characters, and it was really good, and I wanted more. So let's just say I went fishing on the internet and found the Japanese exclusive cartoons and watched them and was indifferent to most of them. I was just like, okay, that's a thing that happened. And one day, during their big going out of business sale, I walked into Sam Goody to snatch up whatever treasures I could get. And I came across Transformers the DVD. And I was like, well, I have a DVD player. So I bought it. And this was when I really started to develop an appreciation for this movie. I never did get into anime. But this movie was similar to the anime I did like. the handful of anime films I did like. I was like, alright, so this is almost like an anime. As time went on, I would eventually buy the remastered DVD, the 30th anniversary DVD, and then the Blu-ray. One of those, and I don't remember which one, came with a digital copy. I was able to download the movie onto my hard drive so I could watch it whenever I wanted. Now, they didn't do the digital copy like everybody else did. It wasn't an iTunes file. You had to go to a website to redeem it and download the file directly with no DRM from the website, which was pretty cool. I got the standard definition and the high definition copy. Still have that digital file on my old laptop to this day. Now, as an adult who is way removed from my childhood and has way more of an appreciation of Transformers, the media, the cartoons, I've watched more of them. I watched R.I.D., the original Car Robots 2001 R.I.D., I should say. Armada, Cyberverse, Prime, the War for Cybertron trilogy. I watched it all. So yeah, I've in the live action movies have rekindled my appreciation of the Transformers saga. Fortunately, to this story, most of the live action movies suck balls. So this elevated my appreciation of the original animated film because it was actually good in comparison to what they were doing with the live action films for the most part. Bumblebee is pretty good. 2007 is pretty good. The rest of them, meh. I can watch Revenge of the Fallen. I can't watch the others. I can't even sit through them. They're just noise. It's just like 3 hours of CGI cutscenes cobbled together into, I guess, a story. I haven't confirmed whether or not there actually is a plot to those movies, and I've watched them enough times that I'm just going to write it off as nope. It's just 2.5 hours, 3 hours of action sequences. It's just a tech demo for their CGI house. Whoever makes their CGI, that's all it is. It's just like 7 tech demos that somehow make a lot of money. So, that's where I am today. I now appreciate the film for what it was trying to do, even though it kind of failed in its initial run. And I appreciate it more for the historical context and for the fact that it does take me back to a part of my childhood. Even though it doesn't take me all the way back to childhood, it does take me back to at least age 12 when I watched it for the first time. Over the years, the movie has grown on me, and now I enjoy it when I rewatch it. Even though I've rewatched it enough, it's just sort of background noise at this point. I still like it. So I have a couple of questions for you. One, were you actually lucky enough to see this in theaters when it was brand new? I'm not talking about some, art house retro theater screening, in modern times. I mean in 1986, did you get to see this in theaters? If so, what were your thoughts at the time, and what are your thoughts today? If no, when did you see this movie for the first time? And what were your thoughts upon first watch, and what do you think of it today? Stay cool.